will always ask, who are you?
Fly in the ointment, Hans. The monkey in the wrench. The pain in the ass.
Oh, this is Tim Seaver, Giant Straight Talk, powered by Online Big Blue LLC. Well, just got back from the first joint practice of the New York Football Giants. Had to jump on the microphone. It was a spirited day. It was a feisty day. It was a fun day. It was a fun day, definitely, to be to watch some football. I think I have a different perspective on this, and people are going to be like, "Oh God, no! Here comes Tim with his different perspective, Mr. Negativity." Maybe it's because I've been watching the Giants since 1976, and I love it because I was talking to some people walking out. And some people are like, oh, this is the most spirited practice I've seen since I've been coming here since 18. This is the most spirited practice I've seen since I've been coming here since 16. I was like, well, this is, I've been coming here since 1976. And I can tell you, while it was a good practice, it was a fun practice to watch, it was not a great practice in regards to football. Because for all the wonderful plays that the Giants made, the connections for Daniel Jones to Malik Neighbors, I like the one play where everyone's going, oh, look at that play to Malik Neighbors. He was out of bounds. I mean, you get excited about the pass, but he was out of bounds. He was ruled out of bounds. So when you watch that play, just know he was ruled out of bounds. Because I did have the refs there that day. There's a reason bad teams fight and get chippy at these joint practices. There's a reason that bad teams come up with shirts with slogans like Dogs and we is greater than me. Because of the fact that everything's always about, we're going to change the culture. You know what changes culture? Winning. That changes culture. Remember in the Cleveland Brown practice when Sterling Shepard was going to fight all the Cleveland Browns and everyone's like, oh, look at that. We're feisty now. Remember a couple years back where the offensive linemen with their nicknames were the Dirtbags. Hey, these guys are the Dirtbags. Now they're Dogs. Instead of coming up with these wonderful expressions, these wonderful phrases, why don't you cultivate some talent? I'm just asking. I'm just asking for a friend. And Dane Belton, he was getting beat today like he stole something. And I love it because then he tries to, after St. Brown had another catch. St. Brown was just eating the Giants' defense's lunch all day. And after he had another catch, Dane Belton comes over and knocks the ball out of his hands after the play. And St. Brown basically just belted Belton underneath the chin of his helmet, his chin strap. Sorry guys, I'm really tired today. I got a lot going on at the house, and I didn't think I was gonna drive all the way up into New York to drive all the way back home because I had a meeting at 4:00. But Belton was getting beat all day like he stole something. And for all the great deep ball connections from Jones to Sterling, to Hyatt and to Neighbors and all that stuff, yeah, that's great. But there was no sacks in practice. And a couple of those deep balls took a long time to maturate. we always say that key phrase, we're going to keep matriculating the ball down the field. But some of those plays took a very long time to develop. So plays like that aren't going to be your staple during the season. I'm just being honest, guys. Because I think a lot of people, they see a Chippy practice.
IQs just dropped sharply while I was away.
And they're like, and I love it because a segment of our fan base is just the lowest common denominator in reference to football fans. Fight, fight, fight. I'm like, oh my God. You really are trying your level-headed best to find something wonderful about everything in reference to fighting. And then there was the big, then there was Daniel Jones in the middle of the scrub going and protecting his guys. Cause you want to know why?
No. Danger's my middle name.
He was going in that scrum protecting his players. And I've said it before. Bill Parcells would have said it best. If Phil Simms did something stupid like that, Parcells would have pulled him over to the sideline and says, you get hurt in a meaningless practice, then where are we at? to the fact that Brian Dable had to take him out. And Brian Dable was upset a few plays earlier because a Detroit Lion knocked the ball out of Daniel Jones's hand, which kind of started this whole situation. And again, it was the Giants with the great, what was it, Van Roten starting the brouhaha against the Detroit Lions players. And that's when Daniel Jones jumped into the scrum. Yeah, that's great and all, but like I said, you get hurt in practice. You're coming off an ACL, you're coming off 2 neck injuries, and you really feel that's what you should be doing. I'm just throwing that out there. People need to look at the totality of the picture, not just it was a spirited practice. It was a very spirited practice, a very chippy practice, but there was a lot of fights started by Giant players. I had a position coach a long time ago, because I was basically always on bad teams. And I had a position coach a long time ago basically say, do you understand why bad teams fight and why bad teams are always the one causing the issues and starting the fights? Because we got into a lot of fights in practice. And I said, no. I said, that's an interesting question. Why don't you tell me why? Because they don't have the fight in the game. So they have the fight in the practice. Because they feel that's going to translate into the game, but it never does, because when you have talent, you don't need to worry about fighting. And that always stuck with me in reference to why if you watch it, you always will have those camp brouhahas. But the Giants recently, over the last 4 or 5 years, have been known for these fights in training camp. And they've been a bad team for these 4 or 5 years, if not longer than that, of course. Now, if you want to...
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
If you want to play Thunderdome, that's fine. If someone does something to one of your players and you're defending that player, I don't have a problem with it. But when your player is the one that started the brouhaha and then you jump into the middle of it, yeah, then I got a problem with it. These are, and everyone can say, well, we competed. Yeah, we competed today. But you're not seeing any of the defensive highlights. You want to know why? Because at times the Detroit Lions ate the Giants' lunch. And you're only seeing a few of these big plays. You're not seeing the entire practice. You're seeing repeatedly 3-4 plays. And I will tell you this, I will say it over and again. It was a fun practice to be at. It was one of the best practices to be at in a long time, because of the fact that you actually went up against a team that should be extremely competitive. Some could say they could be a Super Bowl contender. That'd be the Detroit Lions. Would I would say that the Giants held their own against the Detroit Lions? No, because it's practice. I'm sorry, it's practice. You're working shit out. But you're going to have a segment of the fan base, because I've already seen it on Twitter, overblowing this entire situation. Being like, and maybe it is my job to come on here and speak the honest truth. And you don't like it, fucking leave. I don't give a shit. I really don't care. I ran into this. It was funny. I ran into somebody at the camp. And it was funny because he's a gentleman. I'm not going to get into names because I don't like calling people out unless, because he actually apologized. So I'm not going to get into names, but he's always been a little chippy with me on Twitter and on the videos. And he kind of says some stupid fucking things to me. And I ran into him, and he actually came up to me. So I found that very interesting. And he was like, are you Tim? And I said, yeah. I said, I am. And he told me his name, and I said, oh. And I looked at, and I love people because I've always, it's always the keyboard warrior, because of the fact that I'm standing right in front of him, and he asked me who I am, and I told him, and then he doesn't say anything. And I asked him, I said, well, do you want to say something? And he didn't have shockingly, he did not have anything to say. I just love the fact that he goes, well, you're a lot bigger than I thought. I was like, well, thank you, I guess. But then he went on to apologize because he was like, what's funny? At the end of the day, I listened to some of your stuff, and it's like, I go back and listen to it and find out, you literally are right. And I thought that was actually very nice that he was able to say that. But like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what tomorrow happens with this, because like I said, good coaches don't. Belichick was not a big fan of fights in practice. Parcells wasn't a big fan. I know Coughlin wasn't a big fan, because of the fact they serve no purpose. You want to get chippy with another team? It's just kind of, you know how you get chippy with another team? You beat them on the field. When you feel the need or the necessities to lash out at another player or the opposite player on the team, that is probably because of the fact that you know that team is better than you. Plain and simple. But from a football perspective, like I said, it was a good practice. It was a fun practice to be at. Is it the best practice I've seen in the last 8 years? Probably not. But, to each their own. Everyone needs something to grab onto this 2024 season, and that's fine, because it just is what it is. And I'm going to be at every game as always. I'm going to go to all the practices. I'm going to go to all the events. I'm going to do all the things that I do all year long. And I'm just going to come on here. And I was going to tell you what I see. You like it. You like it. You don't. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to just regurgitate shit just for the likes, the clicks, the bleeps, and the boops. We've talked about that a million times, because that's what a lot of these people do. They don't speak the truth. They speak their version of the truth. Because, sometimes, at certain points of this practice, our defense.
Some motherfuckers are always trying to ice skate uphill.
That's what it looked like they were doing. Goff, and they had one nice interception. Goff and them was eating their lunch St. Brown was eating their lunch at one point in time. And Dane Belton, like I said, Jason Pinnock came out and said, I can't wait to work with Dane Belton. I don't know about that, dude. Because everyone talks about the 2 gifted interceptions, but no one wants to talk about the 5 plays and the 5 touchdowns in a row, passing touchdowns in a row he gave up as the trailer. Nobody wants to talk about that. No one wants to talk about he got benched in the Texans game 2 years ago, didn't see the field towards the end of the season until after all the injuries. Think about these things, guys. Think about these things as a fan. Don't just be a Giant fan, be a football fan. I do have to laugh, though. I wore my Saquon Barkley Eagles jersey on the live stream yesterday. And it's funny because, let's see, Israel's about to be attacked by Hezbollah and Iran. Stock market dropped 1,000 points. And I called, I was texting the Dom and I said, damn, man, this is what happens after I wear a Saquon Barkley Philadelphia Eagles jersey. Oh, we're going to have a lot of fun this year, so make sure you stay tuned. And as always, don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to ring that bell because you want to know why. That'd be awesome.